So now I'm recording, okay? And so I'm going to say again, welcome to Startup Grind Nashville chapter. And this chapter really does focus on three things primarily. We have the mental note that happens every first Tuesday. We have financial note that happens every third Tuesday. We're actually going to have Derek, that's in the audience, to come in because he's our bookkeeper. He's coming in sometime this year. We have people booked out for the whole year because I just wanted to have it done, you know. But anyway, then we have the entrepreneur experience panel, where we have all different entrepreneurs from all over. They send in their form and we just put them all together. And they have a hearty conversation about their entrepreneur experience. But those are just from all different industries. We do make sure that I want to single out the mental note and have the people who come in to help people to have resiliency, be able to make it in these entrepreneur streets. All right. So, Coleen is one of those people. I'm so pleased to have her here for our first mental note of the year. And Coleen, I'm just going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone. Really pleased to have you. Go right ahead.
Thanks, Erica. Hi, everyone. I'm Coleen Greco. I'm a joyologist, and I am just so happy to be here today. I do a lot of networking and obviously deal with a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of humans, right? In general, that, have a tough time balancing work and life, emotions versus facts. And so I do a lot of work with people's mindset to get them to remove those limiting beliefs. Cue the shameless plug for the ebook. Remove the limiting beliefs that keep them feeling stuck. Those are the stories that are constantly on repeat. And so I do a lot of work in that area to get people on the path to their fullest potential. So I am super happy to be here and can't wait for a great fireside chat.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And let's just get right into it. I love to hear the story. You are the inspiration that someone, when we put this up on YouTube, going to come through and going to see this. You're going to be the inspiration that someone needs. So that's why I am all about, what's the story? Tell us, give us, I want all the details. Give us that journey and how you're sitting here right now with joy above your head.
Mm-hmm. And in my heart.
Yes, above your head and in your heart.
I'm just going to say trigger warning, right? Because there are people that are just like, wow, didn't see that coming, right? So I just want to prepare you. So about 6 years ago, our then 10-year-old son had a suicide attempt. And as you might imagine, that rocked our family to its core. And initially, I didn't handle it very well. I ate and drank my way up, way up, and found that in order to heal myself and my family, I needed to, be a better role model. One of the things that was shocking to us is living in Boston. I have access to the greatest healthcare system and healthcare experts in the world, mostly. And there wasn't one that would return our phone calls. We didn't get any help. And so we really had to work to heal ourselves. And really, I felt that, my family was looking to me to kind of lead that charge. So healing myself then meant healing them. And as I started to take the weight off, I was working with a nutrition coach and asked him to help me develop strategies so that I never go back to those weights again. Why am I running to the food and the alcohol to numb? Like, how can I be more present with myself and manage these emotions so that, I don't, go further and further down this rat hole that I find myself in. And he said, "I'm not your therapist." And I thought, bad answer. So please look at Erica's face. I love the eyes. right? You're like, no, I'm not asking for like intensive, like trauma therapy. I'm trying to figure out how to change my mindset. And I said to him, if you don't see the connection between nutrition and mindset, you have missed the boat completely. I mean, they are so intertwined. They're like twins. And so I thought, I have an idea. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it better than him. And I am going to teach people all over the world, right? Teach people all over the world exactly how to do this. I'm going to work with them once so that they lose this weight, change their mindset, and then they just go on living the rest of their lives. Like, I don't want them to repeat with me. That is, to me, a sign of failure for me. And so I started my training and obtained all the certifications I needed and really started coaching. And that was about, I guess, 4.5 years now, where I've kept 52 pounds off. So that's how much I lost, and really have changed my life. I was in corporate IT marketing leadership. Now I'm a joyologist, right? Like, how do you do that? And really it was my calling. It was, I feel like I was hit over the head with a frying pan in order to find it, but here I am. And I'm happy to say, I do want to kind of stop the story for a second and say, he's fine. He's flourishing. He is great. I like to say he's annoying me in all the ways a 17-year-old boy should now. So he's great. And, my family is in great shape, and emotionally, right? Probably physically. I don't really think about that, but emotionally, and we're doing great. But what has now happened is I have helped hundreds of people lose thousands of pounds, but also retire countless limiting beliefs, those stories that are just constantly on repeat. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'll never be whatever. Entrepreneurs, I mean, you're human. You have the same exact limiting beliefs about your business that you do in your personal life. And so I work really hard to get people to see the world the way that the world sees them. Right. So, a lot of times people will throw you a compliment and you're like, yeah, but it's like, no, that's a limiting belief. We need to get rid of that so you can see yourself the way that everybody else sees you. So that's why I'm here.
Okay. So, like, the story is everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoa. First of all, wow. When we talked, you and I, before, of course, I didn't hear that story. No, because I would have said we have a lot in common. That's something that happened. There was not an attempt. There was suicidal ideation, diagnosed with PTSD and major depressive disorder in my, how old was she then? 9-year-old daughter. And so let's talk about how, yes, as the conflict that must occur sometimes in order to get you to the next place.
So are you asking what happened to him to get him to make that choice?
No, the conflict that happened. No. I don't want to know more about that. That's not my business. Okay. That is not my business.
Okay.
No, I want to know about how, in general, when people come to you, they're having a conflict, right? A conflict occurs. So can you talk more about like that with interacting with people?
Yeah, sorry that I misunderstood, but again, any question is open season. Yeah.
Oh, so well, no. Well, as a licensed professional counselor, there's just certain things I'm not going. That's not for YouTube and audience.
I got you. Yeah. So when people come to me, a lot of times it's like they don't really know what the challenge is. They just know they're stuck. Like a lot of times it's, Coleen, I'm stuck. Like I had one client that was like, I just like wake up every day and I'm like, ugh. And I just kind of go through the motions and I do the things and I do the same things every day. And I just don't understand my purpose or like what this is all about. That's kind of like the most common complaint or report that I get. There are lots of I'm not good enoughs. There's lots of I'm not worthies. I'm not smart enough. I'm not beautiful. I don't love myself is huge. I would say every single person that I deal with lacks self-love in one way, shape, or form. And that's where I get them to is a place where they have self-love, sometimes for the first time in their life. I never had it before, but I didn't even realize it until I was so low that, I started to come out of it. And I'm like, this is what that's like when you're like, that Coleen, she's pretty cool. And she doesn't care what anybody else thinks because she is comfortable in her own skin. Like if there is nobody else on the planet but her, she's good. And that was an amazing, I guess, accomplishment that came out of this. And then again, for my family to, learn all of this too was just phenomenal. But when people do come to me, they come with lofty goals. And I tell them, please do not torture yourself with a lofty goal of like, we'll just use my scenario, losing 52 pounds. Can you imagine on day one being like, yep, I'm going to lose 52 pounds. Okay, why don't you just go run a marathon? Doesn't that sound easier? Like, stop. It's too big of a goal. So I work very quickly to get them away from that goal. And we create a lot of short-term goals because you want them to have wins. They need to attach themselves to an outcome and attach themselves to like some success and some progress. And so very quickly, I get them to either non-scale related goals or like self-belief statements. And, like I have this one client, we were talking today, and she knows she lacks self-love, but she was like, I just don't feel like putting my laundry away. And I said, have you ever considered that by doing that is an act of self-love? And I explained to her how those two were connected, about like honoring the things that like your personal things and creating like a nice, comfortable space for yourself that isn't like littered with clothes all over the place. And she's like, no, I never made that connection. Once I get her to put her laundry away on a consistent basis, it's sort of like you start looking around and you're like, I should probably take care of that pile that's always there, or the shoes that are always in front of the door. And little things like that may not feel big, but they are huge when it comes to self-love. And before you know it, you're looking at bigger and better goals, but it starts with those little things. And again, with her, it was just allowing that light to go on. It'll probably 6 months from now, when I look back, that'll be one of her defining moments.
Oh my goodness, this is so good. So Leslie has said that never crossed my mind. And going back, that's what we do. We give ourselves these big goals without all of the different, the steps that takes to get to the goal, the different objectives, and then also the celebrations. Going back to you being a joyologist, hey, if we could every day accomplish it, look, I got out the bed. Woo! I'm gonna dance about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I actually did my exercise today. Yeah. It is a part of, and other than that, you're building discipline. And discipline is definitely something you must have as an entrepreneur. Yeah, you must have discipline, and having small things that you do that pile up, and you give yourself maybe even a ritual around it. I'm going to do this little thing. I'm going to celebrate. Mm-hmm. I'm going to sit in it, and I'm going to be happy to sit in this, that I achieved this, not pushing to do something else and get to the next thing, but really enjoying that.
Yes, definitely. And if you think about it, right, the way you treat your home life is the way that you generally show up in business. So if you come in all kind of like tattered and frazzled and everything, what does that say about the way that your business is operating? I'm sure that isn't a straight up and to the right line, right? There's definitely some static. And so as you start to, prioritize yourself and prioritize those things that, build on each other, they're building blocks towards self-love, then you start to look at your business differently and you're like, that's not the type of client I want to attract. That isn't, the kind of energy that I want. And I tell people all the time, the energy you put out is the energy you get back. So if you're, putting a tornado out there, what are you going to get back? You're going to get that maybe 2 and 3-fold, right? So Erica, I love it. Yeah. And so that's a huge thing. And so it's like also reminding people that you show up as one person. Like you're the same person at work as you are at home. And so it's really important to make those connections and see where those, hot spots show up in your business.
So something that I heard you say is in your story is that it wasn't just you that had this it's like a lifestyle change. It was the whole family.
Yeah.
And that means you had accountability partners. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. So it was in the beginning, I kind of shut a lot of noise out, right? Because we needed to heal. And so I did a social media cleanse and a friends cleanse, and nobody was allowed over the house. And not that they were knocking on the door anyway, there was just no support. And so it was really kind of like just the 4 of us. And so making sure that we were putting, better food into our bodies, making sure that we were having positive conversations about ourselves. I have this really firm belief that I will fight tooth and nail with anybody if they challenge it, that love is literally the answer to everything. And we decided day one, we were going to love on him like nobody has ever seen. And that is going to be the thing that really brings him through to the other side. And the same with my husband, the same with my other son. It was the combination of just love. Like, oh, you're having a bad day? More love, more love, more love. Oh, you don't like the meal I made? More love. Like, not gonna fight about it. More love. And I really truly believe that's how you heal. And we had joy at the center of everything. And we kept each other accountable that way too. Like, let's talk about, we call it joy in the smallest of moments. So what were the small moments where you experienced joy today? Like, I slept in a little bit, or, took the dogs for a walk and they were chasing a bunny, or, who knows, there were lots of them, but, just sharing those stories too was really helpful, because maybe one of us wasn't feeling so great, but the other one, brought us back up to where we needed to be.
Oh my goodness. So good. So good. Oh my goodness. There's so much I want to say. We do have, Leslie said, what if you aren't the same in both places?
That's an interesting question. I would say you are one human. It is hard to divide yourself. I do think there is a lot of you that follows, from one place to another. I do suppose, if I suppose that there could be some challenges in one area or another that made you kind of show up a little bit differently. Like, you weren't happy with your business, but you were happy at home. Your attitude was a little bit better at home. Sure. But you are a singular person. Like you go with yourself everywhere. And so, working on having that alignment between your heart and your head is so important. I mean, that is the one persona at work versus home, hostile work environment. Yeah. But I would argue there's some limiting beliefs that get drummed up in that, because when you're triggered by somebody, it's generally a mirroring situation. It's generally that there is something going on with the way that person is either speaking to you or something that they're doing that you don't like about yourself. Now that can be a triggering comment in and of itself, But, I can give you lots of examples, but, I was having a conversation with my son the other day, and my older one, and he said something about, what did he say? He said, you're not happy. I'm like, well, no, I'm not with this conversation. No, I'm not happy. But he was mirroring for me and I was mirroring for him. Yeah, I wasn't happy in the conversation. So he was calling me out on that because he's not happy, right? So he sees the reason it's bothering him is because he's unhappy here. If he wasn't unhappy, he wouldn't have even noticed my attitude. And so what happens, with mirroring is it's like life's greatest lesson. It's there for you to learn something. And so I always try to approach those things with a childlike curiosity and be like, what's that about? Like, what do I have to learn from this? And I don't have to like it. It's never usually that fun to dig into something that's triggering me. But what is that about? And so as you start to pull on that, you're like, oh, it's that story. Yep. Better go deal with that one. And I do. And I have a method that I teach clients called the SNAP method. And it's how to work through the limiting belief so you can eventually let it go. So the next time that scenario comes up, it just keeps going. It just goes right past you. You're not even emotionally charged by it anymore. You've removed the emotion from the story. So I would be more than happy, Leslie, if you wanted to even set up just a quick call. I'll walk you through the SNAP method. You can go apply it in that work environment. And it might help to start to see the situation a little bit differently. I have another client that she said, oh, my boss is after me. And, she's already fired a whole bunch of people. And she said, and you're next, with the wagging of the finger and everything. And I was like, you know what would be great? Her name's Jill. I was like, Jill, you know what would be great? And she's like, what? I'm like, if you got fired, because then you wouldn't have to deal with that anymore. Like, yeah. You would take a dip.
Oh, wait a minute. I didn't have myself on mute. Look at this.
Yes, you would take a dip in income. Sure. And it's annoying to try to find another job and people are having a hard time right now. I totally get that. But man, is your mental health worth it? And man, you do not need to stand for that. Conversely, how do we look at that woman that is giving you that hard time and say, man, you're so miserable that you feel it's appropriate to treat somebody else that way? How do we have compassion for her and wish her, a healthy dose of the SNAP method, right? So I'm not at all diminishing, Leslie, what you're going through at all, but just saying there might be some other ways like we could look at it to allow you to breathe as you look for your next opportunity, because it sounds like we need to get you out of that one. Let them fire you, collect some unemployment for a little while. There are too many unhappy people in this world. I'm sorry. I get really upset.
Okay. First of all, I want to say, teach. Okay. I want to say that because first of all, so I am all about do no harm as a leader. And one reason why I have people come here is because I intuitively feel like they're a good fit for me. I've attracted individuals to be a part of my life, then I want to share them with others. And one reason why you're here, Coleen, is because of the energy and what you're bringing. But also, you just showed the audience, you just showed me, you showed everybody who's been watching this video, just the greatness of what you do and what you offer. So you all, if you go get you a complimentary session with her, all right, go and make sure you get her workbook on limiting beliefs, all right? Tap into what is inside of you, the joy inside of you. So, of course, the whole time I wanted to answer this question for Leslie because I can, right? And listen, but I was like, let me get Coleen to answer this question, and you just did that. So anyway, I just have to say, Now, something that I keep hearing you say also is story. The story, because we have stories. And you said that you, as one thing that you all did in your family was able to rely on other people's stories of joy when others was not feeling the same energy, right? So as a way to be beneficial to people around you and hold them accountable, you can tell the stories. But I want to know more about the story thing you mentioned.
So the stories are these stories that, are imprinted in your brain, in your ego, more specifically, between the ages generally of like 8 and 13. Now, some of them happen earlier and many of them happen after, but like the core, they always track back to like that moment in your life. And they are things like, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'll never, I never do anything right. Things like that. And, I always tell people, if you have like an immediate response to something, and you know what I mean, it's like that, like jolt, it's a lie. Has to be. You are too triggered too quickly. I have a little gem I like to call, I can never do anything right. And one morning I was going to the gym, and my husband is like the sweetest guy in the world. So I'm just going to preface this story by saying that. But we went to the gym, and it was his job to go home about 15 minutes early and get the morning started. And then I would come about 15 minutes later because the morning was my time and he was coming in on my time. So we worked it out. And this day I ran into a friend. And so I was 10, 15 minutes late. And normally I would call and say, hey, I'm running late, just try to be courteous. But he always used to tell me it wasn't a big deal. So I just didn't call this time. Well, that time he had to be to work early that day, and I didn't know it. And so I got a little bit of a spicy phone call on the ride home. And again, nicest guy in the world, no spicy phone calls ever, except for this day. And so I'm like, I gave some spice back and hung up the phone, and I'm like, I can never do anything right. I came in all huffy, got him more huffy, got my kids huffy. Everybody's in a bad mood leaving. And that story was on repeat over and over and over again, probably 1,000,000 times until I took myself for a walk later that day. And part of the methodology I teach people is called the SNAP method. And one component of it is separating the emotion from the facts. And so on that walk I'm taking myself on, I'm like, is it really true that I can never do anything right? Is that like, am I that bad of a human being? For the love of Larry, like, come on. And so I started looking at the facts, and I was like, got the kids off to school, took a shower, took some calls, whatever I could come up with as positives for the day. And the one thing I had done wrong was not make that phone call, and I made him late for work. And not to prove that I'm like a perfectionist or anything. That's not what I'm getting at. But I'm just saying, like, facts don't lie. And when I look at them, I can't possibly continue to believe that story when I don't have the facts to back it up. So I quickly learned that you can reprogram the ego to believe another story because you told it that one. So you could just tell it another one. And then just like any kind of exercise, the more you do it, the better you get, the stronger the muscle, you can believe another story. And so I had to let that story go. It's a very elementary example, but this same methodology applies to every limiting belief we have. Some of them might take you a few weeks to let go of. Some might take 5 minutes. It depends on how deeply ingrained it was. My I'm fat story, which was one from the time I was 10 years old, took 34 years to get rid of, but that one was a little deeply ingrained. But once I started to look at it and look at the facts, it was like, I am being so hard on myself. This is absolutely insane. And I tell clients all the time, think about if your kids heard you speak about yourself, heard you speak to yourself about yourself, they would be crushed at what they hear. And so try to have a little bit more compassion, a little bit more grace, a little bit more empathy. And this goes for business or home. Same thing. These stories come up everywhere, but it's never as bad as you make it out to be in your mind. And as you chip away at those stories, you can set them free. And what happens when you create all of that space where those stories used to live, now there's space for abundance to come in. And that's where it gets really fun.
Okay, absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for talking about story. Story is how we truly communicate. It's and you said it was, I think you mentioned elementary, but I think that a lot of us are talking to and interacting with our inner child anyway, with these limiting beliefs, the inner child that decided this is how life is because I have to survive this way. And when you become an adult, you're able to not have the same restrictions. You get to make all the decisions for yourself and decide how it's going to go. Wow. I do have a question though. Nadir mentioned, is that similar brainwash? So are you saying, Nadir, is this similar to brainwashing? Is that what you're asking? I believe that's what he's asking. Yes. Okay. Is that similar to brainwashing?
I don't think so. Because I think with brainwashing, it's like, I want you to believe what I believe. What I'm saying is I want you to believe the truth. So the truth is that I do a lot of things right. The lie is that I can never do anything right. Whereas brainwashing, I think, is more like a certain belief system, like a way of believing. And Erica, maybe you're more qualified to answer this, but I see it as like brainwashing is when you have like an agenda or like an ulterior motive. Whereas what I'm teaching is to get you to free yourself from the shackles that you've put on yourself and believe the truth about your scenario.
Well, yeah. So that's exactly what it is. What you just said. Take the shackles off my feet so I can dance. Well, let me have the thing in here. Anyway, yes, brainwashing is when you, someone, makes someone else adopt a radically different belief than their beliefs, right? Now, what we're talking about is you set up some beliefs or stories or even lies in your conditioning because things happen to you and then you decided this is what life is. This is what life is. I am this, or because certain conditions happen. For example, I'm gonna give you an example. I grew up in a household where I was parentified. My mother made me the parent. She called me her slave, like to my face, me and my brother and my sister, and that we were supposed to provide her with, I was her counselor and her chief operating officer, okay? Truly. And so I would make sure things ran smoothly. I kept everything together. So then in my life, I was always very much subservient to other people. And I thought that's how I was supposed to live because I had the story, even though it hit up against me when I was younger, I'm a slave? But I still operated that way until I broke free from it and said, I am not. I enjoy being beneficial to people, but I can do it on my terms. I'm not obligated to do anything other than what I want to do. I am a counselor to this day. I do operate as a chief operating officer to this day, but it's on my terms and it's who I want to work with, period. Okay? So that is deciding. You are just looking at all of what you've learned and saying, let me check all this out here. Do I like this? Oh, no. Well, What do I like? How do I want to live? What is the vision for myself? And then I decide I'm going to live that way. Now, yeah, you may have to decide to be a little delusional to be that at first. I say be delusional. That's how I was radically able to do anything in my life, is I had to be a little delusional about it. Nobody else believed in me or believed that I should be able to have that or do whatever I want to do. But then everybody's looking at me like, wow, how did she get that done? It's because I just say I can't do it, and then here I go doing it. And that's what we're talking about. You can take those off, that conditioning. And maybe it is a little bit of you brainwashing yourself. You're washing away all the crap and putting in what you want. That's what you're doing.
Well said. Anyway. Well said.
Yes. Okay. We have some yeses and some exactlys. Okay. You got that, Nadir? Okay. Yeah. Uh-huh. I always say this. People be talking about somebody, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to do this kind of work because it's woo-woo or I'm not crazy, right? I say, how about you be crazy enough to do something to do something about what you don't like about yourself, instead of being insane and keep on doing what you've been doing. How about that? Anyway, Coleen, this has been so great. Time has went by so fast. I would love to have your closing remarks. If there's any other questions that people have, please ask them. Thank you so much, audience. I'm grateful for you, grateful for your questions, grateful for this time that we've had. Coleen, give us the last wonderful bits and jewels you want to drop for everybody. You didn't tell them about Joy. What's the name of your podcast?
Joy Unleashed.
Okay.
And I would love anybody that wants to be a guest. I have all kinds of guests on, but we always bring it back to joy, because I always say, if not for joy, what are we all doing here? But I guess parting words, I would say, the reality is we all have a number of days left. For you, it might be 3. For somebody else, it may be 3,000. And so no matter what that length of time is, I tell people, don't put off this type of work. It's really, it has held you down for too long. Really approach these stories with a childlike curiosity. My favorite line is, what's that about? Like, let's try to figure out what this means and kind of make an adventure out of it. Because what you're doing, again, is you're opening up for more abundance to come your way once you've let a lot of this garbage, frankly, go. And, you know, when I look back at the last, 6 years or so and where it has taken me, I don't even recognize that person anymore. I don't remember that time, because it just feels like it must have been like some kind of a dream or like a story I read. And so what it brings you, I mean, you could have never convinced me that this is what I would be doing today. But I'm so grateful for it and filled with gratitude and all kinds of, it just warms my heart to be able to do this work with people, and just encourage you to, take a look at some of those stories that give you that feeling, right? You know the one I'm talking about. There's a visceral response when they hit. Take a look at them and do yourself a favor and let them go. Thank you for having me. You've been a great audience. I love the questions. I love the kitchen appliance question. That was really interesting to see what people came up with. I too am a dishwasher. But no, really, thank you. And I appreciate all of the openness, the candor, and the conversation.
Yeah, it was It's so great. I appreciate the audience. I appreciate you, Coleen. I'm so happy that I was able to share you with them and also with the Startup Grind community. This information is going to be in our library for anyone to digest, and we do get individuals to go there. I will send everybody here the link to the playlist for Nashville chapter so that you can see all of the events that we've had, especially to share this one with others, especially anyone around you who maybe that maybe need to talk or hear something about limited beliefs. Send them to this particular talk. But just to end our time, this is the Nashville chapter Startup Grind. I am Erica Kesse, the Startup Grind director. I also want to let you all know I'm a love force with mysterious wisdom, celebrating life. I run a business called Your Goal Concierge, and we are a resting place and resource hub for matriarchs and mom CEOs. We love to partner, especially right now, offering the resource of profit strategy so that moms can finally get all of the profits for their legacy and be able to put their feet up and not worry about a thing. And so also want to let you know that remember, you all, we have in 2 weeks from now, our next mental note, we're going to have our financial note with Sandra. I forgot her last name. So sorry. You can see it and you can register. All of the events are already on our desktop or when you go into the chapter, you'll see all the events that's there. Go ahead and get yourself registered so you can get the announcements. And let me see, is there anything else? I think that's nothing else. Please send us the link to the library. Okay, I will do that. I'm going to send the email out to you all with the chat because you can't save the chat. So I'm going to send the chat information to you. The introductions, not the kitchen table, the kitchen appliance part, but the information in there, especially be able to get your limiting belief workbook from Coleen and also be able to reach out to her. Okay. And so I'm very pleased that you all were here. Please keep showing up to Startup Grind Nashville chapter network and get to know each other, make connections. That's what we're here to do. Blend it up. Okay. So you all have a great rest of your night and happy rest of your day. Bye.